Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Block Party number 148. We're now going to recap INC'23. INC stands for Independent National Convention. So Chief Phil Lane Jr. and I were at the Independent National Convention this last week in Austin, Texas. I'm going to screen share and play a few minutes from the very beginning of the conference, where there was a drum circle by a local members of a local indigenous tribe there in Texas at Chief Phil's invitation. Exactly behind the guy in the light blue shirt is the chief, and I'm going to skip ahead here to where Chief Phil entered. Forgive me as I skip around here.
Especially precious. Mitakiapi, my very, very beloved members of our precious human family, I'd like to extend a very warm and loving handshake and embrace to each and every one of you. I especially want to remember our relatives, the Punkawa, Comanche, and Apache Apaches who rode across these lands for thousands of years. and whose spirit is here with us today. I want to thank Christopher Life and the whole team that has led the embryonic development of this new movement to end adversarial partisan politics forever upon this mother earth. I want to thank my dear brother, Chief Grimes, Richard Grimes, and my grandsons for coming here and beginning this as it should have begun more than 500 years ago. Together in unity. And I'd like to give an opening prayer. Odin Kashla Wakantana, Creator of the universe, most beloved one, all-powerful one, most kind one, most compassionate one, ever forgiving one, most glorious one, O Ancient of Days, O Blessed Beauty, we call upon your holy power at this time, and all our generations, past, present, and future, who are closer than our closest vein, to reveal themselves and their guidance during these next days of the first Independent National Convention here in this place. In Kashla Wakantaka, we give thanksgiving to all the tribes and nations of the East from where comes the red sunrise, and ask and call upon them to come together in unity and harmony and kindness and respect and honor and humility and justice. In Kashla Wakantaka, we call upon all those tribes and nations of the South from where comes new life to come together with unity, harmony, and love and compassion and spiritual awareness to this great historic event that's unfolding at this time. In Kashla Wakantaka, we call upon all the tribes and nations of the West from where comes thunder, lightning, and rain to join us and to awaken us with that lightning, to awaken our hearts and minds that each of us is a sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. In Kashla Wakantaka, we call upon all the tribes and nations of the North from where comes the white snow. That purifying north wind might purify our hearts and minds in this process we're engaging in, so we might truly be sacred minarets, sacred flutes of the Creator through which the pith of self has been blown, so we might be an umbilical cord to the spiritual worlds of this world, as has been our elders and ever-beloved ones of all our cultures by Mother Earth. In Kashla Wakantaka, we give thanksgiving this time to Father Sky and all the masculine elements of life. At the same time, we ask forgiveness for the overabundance of these masculine elements of life that almost led our human family and our beloved Mother Earth to destruction. I want to say, Creator, let us remember, Mother Earth's not sick, we're sick, and we have to heal. And Kashla, we most of all humble ourselves before our beloved Mother Earth, who sustains us, who gives us life, and her representative, womankind, who through great pain and suffering brought each and every one of us into this world. We ask, Creator of all good things, truly we might awaken to the spiritual reality that the eagle, the condor, the quetzal, the hummingbird have two wings. One is man and one is woman. Until both wings of that eagle have equal power, respect, and honor, there will be no peace on earth. And we will continue down this path of destruction that we're on. And finally, Creator, respect all those who come from other traditions on Mother Earth. We want to respect all those sacred traditions that teach love, kindness, respect, tolerance, unity. We share this prayer for unity. O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal unto them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps to the light of knowledge, and cheer their hearts with your love. Verily, help. Amen. Chante washtelo, shugmano hemeado, chinupasapa hemeado, halmi chante washte. In our Dakota way, when we finish speaking, we say our names, Shugmano and Chinupasapa. And then and that means my names are Chinupasapa, a sacred black pipe born of thunder, lightning, and rain. My name is Shugmano, a leader of warriors who takes the enemy's best forces, and I stand responsible before the Creator for all my words and all my actions. How? Shante Washington. You know, it's time for us to take off our titles, to take off anything that separates us as human beings. Whatever it is, whatever makes us feel more special than another human being. Because the reality is, my very beloved relatives, that each and every one of us is a sacred being to be respected and honored in every dimension. And that is a fundamental teaching of our indigenous people. I hope and pray that this sacred movement of healing of this very, very sick nation, where the number one cause of disease is the overdose on opioids. What pain we have here. And I pray that together, in unity, an unprecedented unified action of this movement forward of healing, that we can address these issues. As well, I want to say that for sure, if other parties, I won't go into that part, I don't like to get into all that, because our elders say this: stand in your spiritual strength, stand strong, move to the positive alternative you wish to create without giving your energy away fighting the negative. I can guarantee you, Midaki, when the cry of truth is raised, so is the cry of denial. It's a natural law. But we have to go way beyond those adversarial partisan politics. We have to show unity. We have to speak to principles, not personalities. One part I'd like to share. One more. The U.S. Constitution, by the way, was drawn directly from the Peacemaker's Law of Peace. Great Law of Peace. And two things were left out. Fundamental. One, the wisdom and the power and the respect and honor of women. Of course, what do you expect when all the framers of the U.S. Constitution were white Protestant males, landowners? That's who founded it. With all due respect, because all the material wealth here, yes, a lot was done. But now is the time of unity. Now is the time when the union of the condor, the quetzal, the eagle, and the hummingbird has been united last week in Palenque. As prophesied, those prophecies are fulfilled. And we are together on this path. Last thought. The U.S. Constitution says the supreme law of the land are treaties. I ask, from the bottom of my soul, that we can, as a movement, because we can't build a movement on dishonesty, on lies, that the United States government treaties with Indian nations, and I say Indian nations because all the treaties were made with that term, Indian nations be fully honored and fulfilled. So I thank you so much for this time. I look forward to visiting with us together. Without any kind of titles, I'm just Brother Phil. Or, since I'm almost 80 here, you could call me like my grandson's Lala, that's grandfather, or uncle. Because we must not rest until we make everybody we know a brother, sister, mother, father, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, grandfather, grandmother, grandson, granddaughter. Then we'll know exactly how to treat them. Exactly. So I want to ask that we have that relationship. I want to make that relationship. I don't want somebody to come, oh, chief, come up and say, brother, uncle, grandfather, or hey. And the last thing I'm going to say, the Creator loves laughter. Our Creator created us to be happy and joyful beings. That's why He made nature so colorful. He made the birds sing in the morning. He made the animals play. We are meant to be joyful and happy beings, fully free from, severed from all save spirit. And so, this is what this is about. Howli Shante Washtelo, Shikmaro Hemeado, Chunipasapa Hemeado, Howli Shante Washte. Aho. Aho.
Aho. And with that beautiful opening drumming, prayer, and speech, INC'23, the Independent National Convention, was started. And I see my sister Kate is here with us, and she was there with us in Texas. Whenever you'd like to say hello, Sister Kate, great to see. Oh, looks like you're driving.
Yes, I am driving, so I'm kind of in listen mode, but wonderful to pop into Chief Bill's both words. It felt like nothing less than a new conventional dialogue happening between, but this time it was like a continental congress where all voices were brought in. The indigenous, every culture was there, libertarians, people who didn't, anarchists. But you know what? It was so warm, the feeling, and you could feel the purity and true conscience driving these people, and I've never been so hopeful. So it was so wonderful to meet Shaman and see Phil in the flesh. And so I'm intruding on your conversation.
No.
Sorry, I missed food dealers.
You're not, no, you're not intruding at all. You are very much needed here, because I think it was just you and I who were actually there in Austin, Texas. So we need you here, Kate, sister. So please stick around. We are recording so that other people can get the recap of this. So please jump in anytime, Kate. You are very, very much needed here. And looks like PJ was back, but then he had to popped out. Anyway, hopefully PJ will be back. So let me continue with kind of the recap, and please jump in with any questions or comments. So Chief Phil gave the opening, as you just saw there. He also participated in panels, and we'll play some excerpts in a bit from some of the panel discussions, and also gave the closing prayer. And among many other themes and topics that were brought up. Oh, and welcome, Melissa, sweetheart. Welcome, my queen, and welcome to everyone who's here. Please jump in anytime with any questions or comments, everyone. Among the many themes and topics, there were two major themes, I would say, that really stood out. One was that of revolution, and but certainly not a violent revolution, but a revolution nonetheless, in the sense that the political system of the country and the core, which I'll talk about in a moment, that's the second major theme, the core that drives the political system, the economic system, the culture, is corrupt barely begins to describe the extent of the evil and the corruption and the harm of that which is driving American politics, and the domination of what's referred to as the duopoly, right? The Democratic Party, the Republican Party, so revolution was just a constant theme throughout the entire convention, and the urgency of the revolution, given the rate and extent of destruction of the country, of the planet, the biosphere, the overheating of the planet, etc. And then, as I mentioned, another major theme is really the core of all this, right? So we spent an hour and 20 minutes yesterday doing a recording, which is a link to which is in the email that I sent out last night for the block party, for this block party. So check your email if you want to see that, or just go to my YouTube channel. I'll even include the link here in the chat. But we recorded an hour and 20 minutes, Marco, James, and I, talking precisely about a context or a framework for how to make sense of the whole convention and where exactly politics fits within the overall structure of society. And so the model that we formulated is that there is a core, right? Ideally a spiritual core, and we'll talk more about that. But in the United States, the core that drives politics, economics, culture, etc., is, I would characterize it as an absence of spirituality, and in its place, a materialism and a hyper individuality that is driving hoarding, capitalism, and ultimately the destruction of people and planet. So I've said a lot of words there, and I don't want this to be a monologue, so I'm going to go on mute for a little bit here and pass the talking feather, and I invite folks to jump in with questions or comments about what you've heard, what Chief Phil said, what I've said, before we go deeper. So feel free to jump in, everyone. Passing the feather.
I just like to say very thank you for what just happened in INC, and thank you, Chairman, that you do that moderation here. It's so good to hear. I have some friends over there in a reservation, in a Rosebud reservation. He lives here on a mission, and when we got in his red lodges, before he mentioned, so if you have drum circles, he mentioned how the people, we pray the whole time when we go for the people over there. And he describes how it is to live in a reservation, and how the massacre was on Wounded Knee, and for his people where he's coming from, the Sigashu tribe. I just want to mention that I'm very happy what you just shared, and I can't wait that you share more. Please do.
Thank you, Sister Suzanne. Thank you very much, Suzanne from Switzerland. And Ilana, go ahead, Ilana.
Thank you. Whoop, here we go. So I'm so glad you were there, Jamin. And it was so wonderful to see and hear and feel Chief Phil. I had some questions because I'm so interested in how you think that his clear and unifying message can be extended within the group that attended. And so first of all, it was hard to tell. I was joining via the Zoom for a bit of it. And I know there were 3 stages and many panels that Brother Phil participated in. But first of all, like, how many in general do you feel attended? And did you feel it was easily accessible? Because kind of 2 questions, and then I'll keep going because I'm so curious.
Yeah, I would say several hundred attended, and it's felt very open and accessible. The registration was easy, simple, and even over the course of the convention, they said, "Hey, if you have friends here in Texas, invite them to come." You know, everyone comes. So very, very welcoming, and it and even though, you know, the numbers were not in the thousands, you know, several hundred, there was very much a feeling that this is a seed crystal that is now going to grow. And there was just so much passion and energy. It just felt absolutely inevitable that this is going to grow by leaps and bounds. And we had some wonderful speakers from all walks of life. We had Charles Eisenstein, Tulsi Gabbard gave an amazing speech, Dennis Kucinich, Brett Weinstein, Chris Hedges. There were just phenomenal speakers across the board, and we'll cover more of that as we go. And with that, I pass the feather back because I know you've got more questions, Alana.
Sure. So this is again back about access because, you know, initially I was researching, you know, for other folks who wanted to come, and it seemed, you know, it was $1,900 to attend, or even if you wanted to go online, it was still, it felt like there was a price barrier that did not allow people who were really curious to basically join. Did they drop that completely at the end?
You know, interesting. I just know they were saying, "Hey, if you have friends here local, tell them to come tonight for the speeches, this and that." So, and they didn't mention anything about price there. And since I was, you know, Chief Phil's +1, you know, guest, I didn't pay anything. So I actually didn't know literally until now anything about price.
Oh,
So thanks for
yeah, it
sharing
was
it.
like
But
$1,900.
no, sister, you're misinformed. 395 was the general ticket price. And then if you wanted the VIP ticket, it was 900. And that they gave you an ounce of silver that the Liberty Mint has really an interesting party too. Just all of the talk about monetary systems and just the insanity of printing money that's backed by nothing was evasive.
I think you're being hacked by the NSA, Kate, sister. You're being scrambled. There, no further dissent will be tolerated. So I think that's the message here. Okay, passing the feather back. Go ahead, Ilana.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's less about being misinformed. It was more about how the website and the online invitation was communicated, which did say $1,900 for to join the dinners, to join the, you know, the entire experience, and then they slashed it down to 999. And yeah, I mean, I'm just very interested in the access for all because I think this movement is so important. What was the highlight for you, Jamin?
The highlight for me, the main highlights were, it was an ongoing highlight, and it was really Chief Phil, because he emerged as, for lack of better words, the spiritual leader of the entire revolution. Right, I would put it in those simple terms: the spiritual leader of the revolution. And you know, you had a lot of experts from different areas: politics, economics, sociology, culture, health and healing, freedom of speech, law, etc. All there, political leaders, etc. But really, Chief Phil was absolutely unique in his messages around spirituality, the spiritual core all of this. And everywhere we went, I was with Chief Phil the entire time for all 3 days, actually 3+ days, until we traveled back. And everywhere we went, like we couldn't take 5 steps without people coming up and wanting to shake his hand and talk and express their appreciation. You know, there were many other highlights, you know, just all the talk around revolution itself, other deep conversations around the core of all of this. Brett Weinstein delivered an amazing speech, which I'll play excerpts of in a bit. And so there were many other really amazing highlights, but Chief Phil and his leadership and just bringing this very loving and compassionate and welcoming spiritual leadership to the entire event for me was absolutely far and away the major highlight.
Yep. I even caught that from just from the video, like this, just from the few streaming moments that I could catch. It was super obvious. And so just we can do this offline, but let's make sure that we get that video into the archive that we started once we were in Palenque, so that we can incorporate that remarkable spiritual leadership at what I think we all sense is the way forward.
Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely.
Thank
Yes.
you. I'm so sorry I'm going to have to drop off, but I'm so grateful and looking forward to any other details offline. Thank you all for being here. Lovely to see you all.
Great to see you, Alana. Thank you so much for being here, sister.
Tons of gratitude. Bye, y'all.
Blessings. See you soon.
Bye.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Yeah, and awesome that so many of us here today were also in Palenque. Adriana, James, Marco, Elana, just amazing there in Palenque. And you know, and he mentioned, of course, in his opening speech there about the union of the eagle, condor, quetzal, and hummingbird, and the council that was elected in Palenque. So there's now this the bringing of the spiritual core back to it to guide this new revolution in politics, economics, culture, etc. So, and again, I recommend the 1 hour and 20-minute recording if you can take the time. That we were, even just the first 10 minutes of it is really good. That we recorded yesterday. I'll put the link in the chat here. And Susanna, did you have more to add?
Well, I was just going to say, also to say congratulations as well to Claudia as well for being elected onto the council of the the Condor, the Eagle, the Quetzal. So that was great to see that happen as well, and Grandma Mima, and it's for everyone really. Like it was a fantastic and powerful experience and honor to be there to witness it and everything. Like, so I just wanted to extend that and let others know that Claudia was actually elected as a member of the council as well. So congratulations, Claudia.
Aho, aho. Okay, and I put that video in the chat. Oh, and Susanna, yeah, go ahead. And you're on.
I just like to thank you. Just thank you that you put it in the chat because I couldn't be there. My heart was with you. I was in Altamira state here in Switzerland because I was in training. I was on training with Tony Robbins. I registered already some weeks before, and I had a hard time to stay to decide which way to go. Yeah, but I was in Palenque last year on the pilgrimage from Palenque, Ponampak, Tikal, El Mirador, and I was with you the whole time. That's what I mentioned it.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So next, I thought maybe what I could do is share from the panel that Brother Phil participated in on precisely religion and spirituality. So let me share this. Let me just check in with Marco and James first of all, since we watched this. Do you think this would be a good thing to share the entire portion of that? Marco and James, since we reviewed it together.
The entire portion of
his
talking on religion, is it?
Exactly, religion and spirituality.
Well, it's about half an hour long, I think.
20 minutes, 20
minutes, yeah. No,
yeah,
it's up to yourself, because I'm not sure exactly what parts were more poignant to you. Like, so I would say let you choose that. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well, actually, yeah, here I'll put the link in the chat in case. Let's see here. I'll put here religion and spirituality. And actually, maybe I'll play that in half an hour, because at the top of the hour, I actually need to take a call that'll probably go for a bit, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, I'm guessing. So I'll play it at that time, because then I can step away and take my call. But there's the link for those who want it. But let's have maybe just in the meantime, a bit of just sort of an open discussion about the revolution, and you know, what we see, because I don't want this just to be a recap of the convention, but kind of a, you know, an expansion from here, because this is a very unique group that we have here, and we have a representative of the council, Claudia, here, and we have all of us amazing folks. So as we're recording, and of course we can pause anytime, but you know, and we talked earlier today on the Food Healers and Homo Ahimsa segment about Homo Ahimsa, about humanity evolving to become a new species. And this is in the context of, and a bit later I'll play some excerpts from Brett Weinstein's amazing speech, which is about 20 minutes long, where he talks about the system, not just in the United States, but the planetary system of global capitalism and the destruction of the planet, so that more resources, power, privilege, and comforts can flow to who he refers to as the rent-seeking elites of the world. So he calls that whole system Goliath, just to, you know, with the obvious biblical reference as an analogy. And he says, well, if that's Goliath, then who is David? And he says, we are David. All of us are David. And he talks of the imperative for us to come together and unite as we have never done before. So what's interesting about one of the interesting things about the Independent National Convention is you have all these disparate independent groups, you know, fiercely independent, and coming together. So how do you be both independent and forming a coalition at the same time? So there's this really interesting balance. As I mentioned, Homo Ahimsa, my particular view on it is we are in the process of evolving to and transforming into a new species. And I use the analogy of a bunch of individual ants coming together as a colony. Not that ant colonies necessarily evolved that way, but it makes a nice story. And in our case, I think it's pretty accurate. We've all been born into a system of hyper individuality, separation, and material hoarding at the level of the individual, which, as we go into great detail in yesterday's video, the first link I posted a few minutes ago, that has created the conditions for the destruction of the planet that is ongoing and accelerating, where 70% of the wildlife has already been decimated and the rest are dying at an incredibly fast rate, along with pollinators and species extinction and exponential global warming, etc. So at the heart of the revolution, at the heart of this transformation, is humanity coming together under a whole new model. So if not individual hoarding and accumulation for individual survival at the expense of everything and everyone else, if not that, then what? Right? We all have our dreams and visions of what we can become, what the world can become, of what heaven on earth would look like, of what Homo Ahimsa might look like. So I've spoken a bit much here. I don't want to be just talking and talking. So I'm going to pass the talking feather and go on mute, and love to hear from everyone.
Well, until I see I'd like to see what that talk that Weinstein is you're referring to, but we had that problem, a similar problem with that here in Ireland, because up until right up into the 90s, as I said, like since the Civil War in 1921, when Ireland became a republic and Northern Ireland was separated and ruled by England. So when we had an Irish Republican government, like which we still have to this day, from 1921 right up to now, really more or less, it's been always a monopoly between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, or coalition between Fianna Fáil and the Social Democrats, or not the Social Democrats, Fianna Fáil and Labour, or Fine Gael and Labour, or Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, whatever, just enough to keep. They've sometimes had to have, but the overall, basically, it's always been power is Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. That's changed, because the people are sick of them because of all the criminal shit that was going on. Sorry enough for the language, but back in the 90s, all the money in politics, the backhanders with the envelopes and from builders and all the criminality that goes on in politics. So all of that was cut out anyway, and there's now no politician in Ireland. Anyone that goes for government now in Ireland, they get a certain amount of money to have their campaign. Everyone has the same amount. It's only enough just to run your small campaign anyway and put up posters in your locale. And nobody can get donations from outside, so they're keeping the money out of politics. But in order to get rid of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael's monopoly, there's a lot of independents that are coming up from the 90s. But what they found was that even though they were being elected as independents, they had no power there, because Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael still held power and majority in the government, so they couldn't get any of the things they were fighting for on the agendas, even sometimes, or let alone say get them passed or anything. And in order to get power, in order to gain enough more power and have more of a political vote within government, all the independents formed a party, so that they could form then a coalition. They would have enough, and the members of the independent party, they would be able to form a coalition with any, a larger party if they had a chance. So what they did, they're still independents, but they're part of the People Before Profit Party. So that's how Claire Daly then was able to become MEP, and Richard Boyd Barrett and the likes. These are all members of they were either independents or Social Democrats. The only way they could gain power or gain any kind of a hold or get anything passed in government was to form a coalition of independents, and they just called themselves the People Before Profit Party. And that's what they're all about. They're all about the people. They're all about anti-war and people's rights, basically, basic human rights. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, but they should come together, the independents, if they want to gain power in America. The only way to do it is come together. That's the essence of the message anyway from Chief Phil. Come together as one human family. But in politics, you get nowhere either on your own. Just saying.
I'd like to pick up that talking feather. Yes, come together, but there was a lot of talk about election reform and how, just as you speak, James, there needs to be a cap of how much one can spend on a campaign, making it accessible to everyone, once again, as we know. And that's why, Palenque, it felt like the elections at Palenque were a true divine appointment almost. And that it kind of, whatever the insight and inspiration that comes through that almost trumps, and at least needs to be included in any reform that happens on the planet. Because we're so aware, everyone is so aware that we really are one human family. And, which that just brings up our place of where we have the blinders, where we have been, some people can examine that, some people are, haven't been able to, or that whatever that takes in your consciousness to break through that blinder, that place that we put up walls around our heart that excludes people that are different from us. And the other thing I want to bring up, that Brett Weinstein was so powerful, but there's such an urgency in that man's voice too. A compelling look at the evolution of Earth. And I also want to add that, it was Zach Bush who did like almost the ending speech, and the way he brought in the microbiome and the health of the planet into the whole big picture scene, I thought was kind of boundary busting. And then also Del Bigtree. We really need to pay attention to Del Bigtree, the live wire. He does a Thursday show every week, but he has been breaking through and like putting up lawsuits against when he finds the injustices. And vaccines is kind of how he started. It was a movie. Vaxxed is kind of he's just a whistleblower, I guess you'd call him, an independent journalist who speaks truth to power and brings on not your mainstreams, just ever new investigative reporters that bring whole new insights into the big picture. And so those are just some thoughts that I had. I can't wait to hear the Brett Weinstein and hear what that might inspire us to discuss, because as we know, like I said, it was so beautiful. All cultures were represented. And Phil was heard, the indigenous voice was heard, and you could feel the sincerity and the truly reformative ideas that are just transitional. And thoughts from me. Thanks for listening. Pass the talk to Feather.
Beautiful, Kate, sister. My goodness, it was so good to finally meet you in person and hug you. And Kate and I sat together for many of the talks and speeches. And we were just right up there in front, just infusing the conference with our energy. And yeah, just beautiful. So I want to continue to encourage us to, before we start to play some of these other segments starting at the top of the hour in about 22 minutes. What is your vision for the new world that we want to co-create, the new spirit, the new core, the new politics, the new economics, right? So, politics is largely around governance and laws and us coming to an agreement as to how we want to walk the earth as humanity. And, but where the rubber hits the road is economics, right? What do we actually do to feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, house ourselves, move ourselves around, and for what purpose? All of that has a core, and that's what we're going to be talking about with religion and spirituality, and that's what we talk about in the long video from yesterday on the context for the whole thing. And so I'll just, to kind of, fertilize the conversation a bit more, I believe that we need to transition to a world where everyone is fed and housed and with health care as basic human rights, regardless of whether you work or not, regardless of whether you have money or not. I'd love to get rid of money altogether and have a world where we all feed each other, we all care for each other. And it is absolutely possible. What makes food expensive are the ways that we commercialize food. But if we mass produce, plant-based stew and just feed everyone as a public service, it becomes so inexpensive, so efficient, it boggles the mind, right? So even within the current capitalist system, if you buy truckloads of, say, lentils, a superfood, the cost is pennies per pound. And 1 pound of lentils cooks up into this whole big pot of nutritious, delicious, protein-rich, fiber-rich, nutrient-rich lentils. And that's just one ingredient. Put all these ingredients together with produce, rice, beans, etc., spices. Oh my goodness, you have a delicious full spectrum nutrition stew that is incredibly inexpensive, pennies per serving, and you just feed everyone on an ongoing basis. You make that a public good, a public service, and that solves our most basic, our most essential human need for nutrition, for food, for energy. The others, by comparison, are even easier to solve, because food must be provisioned 3 times a day for 3 meals a day. Shelter, housing, you build it once and it's good to go for years if it's well built. So there's absolutely no need for an economy that destroys the planet so that people can have luxuries that they don't need, that are really more about hierarchy. But anyway, so those are just some of my thoughts. And with that, I pass the feather. Love to hear from everyone.
Well, if you're a reluctant crowd, I can pick up the feather again, because they actually did send out a survey on the INC, and that was my only complaint. So as you think of, as you say this, yes, just have this stew available for use in all kinds of different ways. I thought that was a state park. Darn it, I don't know where that goes. Anyway, I was going to pull off at the Chickasaw State Park, but it looks like it gets complicated. Anyway, the plastic we generated just through the packaging, it was so insane. It really was ridiculous. I had to say that was my complaint. And, I have to confess, I grabbed a plastic water bottle at one point. I had used up my water and didn't see a refill station. Anyway, yeah, it's just so obvious that, caring for one another and getting back to the natural way of living. When you ask me what I envision for the future, it's like, to truly strip it all bare and just live within the confines of the Earth Mother for just power, stop it all for a while and reevaluate. But at the rate we're going, you know, there's going to be 8 billion robotics. What do you call them? Robots, I guess that's the word. Everything is becoming so less to the earth and so far removed. And it just makes my heart cry. I feel like it's so obvious that garbage must be number one priority, the garbage we generate. And if that reason alone isn't enough to cook food collectively, you know, we go into the numbers on the food waste in America and how the standard of living so bad. I'd had to have security people at the turkey store on Easter. What the world? What kind of world? And so that I feel like that I don't know, I kind of drive through this world and you were asking what makes us move about. And you know, when I went to Ecuador for this Pyramid of Peace, you know how my heart leaps for joy when Barbara says we're gonna have the global smile. When James Twyman says, yeah, we all just meditated this moment. I've had those times where, oh, this is it, humanity, we can do this, because you know, you hear the numbers, there's 300, it takes, you know, 300 million just to shift it like that. And so anyway, I dream about those things. And where was my last hope of, I don't know, now I kind of forgot where I was going. So I started with the plastic waste and just why I'm going so much. That's where I was at. Is it feels like I had to legitimize since Claudia's in earshot, and I know that she knows when I went there. And I thought this pivotal, the Pyramid of Peace, and the auspiciousness of the timing, and I thought I was going to meet Phil there. You know what had happened? Phil actually called me after that because he knew how heartbroken I was. I thought I was going to be Dot Maver and Phil Lane, went halfway around the world. But the Pyramid of Peace, you know, I thought this could be it, dancing with the elders. And it kind of gets to be a long involved story of what all I witnessed there. But I didn't feel the realness, the pureness in my heart like I did now. And that's why I can only tell you when you really feel things in person. And then I must say, I encountered the people again in Los Angeles. And I think a lot of people felt, you know, what I felt. And they've simply dropped off my radar screen entirely. And it's interesting. And now I'm being called to a place called the Peace Pentagon. And it's kind of close to Washington, D.C. And so I'm kind of in the camp that we must put all of our energy, all of our choice into becoming these beacons of light that will speak truth to power, that will speak our conscience, and that know of a coalition of people that are willing to work together. I don't know if you met Grandmother Mary, but Grandmother Mary was 85 from Reno. She came to the National Convention. She envisions Tulsi as president, Dennis Kucinich as vice president, and Marianne Williamson as Department of Peace, Secretary of Peace. And so I try to just give that vision. And well, I can go on and on in the visioning world is because it's a never-ending story. But realizing that all we have is now, and all we have is our own, you know, our own agency, our own volition, whatever you want. But Jamin has created this space that we can bring our networks of grace together, and we can leverage power in new ways. This INC is going to come involved with more ways that we can collaboratively lobby on things and truly make some changes. And you know, reminding everybody that, you know, think global but act local, you know. And to that end, I just picked up a load of garbage when I was in Arkansas. I'm now in Tennessee. That's my rule. I have to pick up at least a bag of garbage in every state. I want to have a thing where when Dot honors the Global Silent Minute at 2 o'clock every day, that everyone got out and picked up garbage for just that 1 minute. And I know that's being very wordy today. I thank you for listening. Passing the feather. Appreciating you.
Well, with all the hearts on the screen popping up, we love you, Kate, sister, and love hearing from you. So please be as.
I'm sorry. I should turn on my video when I talk so you can see my conviction, and I just realized it was off. But
No,
whatever.
don't worry about those things, especially when you're driving. Safety first.
See, yeah, I could take you down the highway, but it's just truck after truck after truck. But it's such beautiful country. That's why you're like, oh my God, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a coast to coast rail that we could just use. Because I remember there's an old boy I took care of in a care, so I was a nurse. Clink Garrett was his name. If you ever get a chance to read 10 Turtles from Tucumcari, it is so eye-opening in the whole transportation business. 1930s is really when it became popular. And look at where we've brought it. It's just those deep changes we must make. Because you heard it, the animal kingdom speaking through Chairman. My God, what did he say? Almost 70% are completely extinct. Hello. What will it take to get me off the roof? I don't know. I have a battle with myself.
Thank you, Kate, sister. So good to see you and hear from you. And be safe out there driving. Safety first. Don't worry about us or cameras or microphones or anything. All right. Other voices. Feel free to jump in. Share your visions of what kind of a new world do we want to create? New society, new culture, new politics, new economics. And in a few minutes, we'll play the 25-minute or so segment of Chief Phil talking about religion and spirituality as the core of the new world. And then after that, I think we'll play Brett Weinstein's amazing speech.
Well, Jay, man.
Yeah, Alan.
Not a big point, but something that we've been working on with the Africa project. We fed the kids with the watermelons because of the seeds, and there's all the talk of money. We want to replace it with cryptocurrency. We want to have a currency that we can control, but there's already a currency been here for thousands of years that's very easy to control, and it's the seeds. So yeah, that's the sort of way we're trying to move forward with this refugee camp in Africa, is encouraging the kids to save their seeds and plant them, and see the results they can get from that. So that seems to be like quite a positive way for an area where it's hard to get money to, and hard to, I don't really think they probably have the technology to use cryptocurrency. So seeds is an answer to that.
Beautiful, yeah. And as we feed everyone and the basics of life become free, people can then, volunteer and planting and regreening the planet and picking up garbage, as Kate was saying, and doing all kinds of cool things just as volunteer efforts. All of this seems so obvious. We just need to somehow snap out of this downward spiral that we've been in and onto a new way. And Brett Weinstein talks about citizen assemblies and people coming together and talking. We're here coming together and talking, and for years we've been envisioning and talking about this network of networks of conversations and communities forming a planetary collective intelligence, so that together we can co-design and co-create this new world step by step. So it feels like we have all the elements that we need, but we need to, perfect the plan and the transition. And of course, as Brett Weinstein talks about, there are real elements of evil out there and real forces that we need to contend with tremendous urgency. Suzanne, and please remind us how to pronounce your name. Is it Susanna? And take it away, sister.
Hey, my name is Suzanne. Suzanne, simply Suzanne. I just want to mention Dr. Stephen Greer. I followed his work since years. And he will have a press conference I think in June, with people who are aware that the military complex of the US in the United States had or still have, and he wants to come forth with that truth. They already have some technologies which are not acquire oil or gas anymore. It's a new technology for gaining energy. Just want to, it's a little bit a hot topic, and I was a little bit afraid to mention that, but you can find it because of the repression, maybe. But I'm in Switzerland, but you never know. This topic must come out, and you can find his information on his YouTube channel, Dr. Stephen Greer, Greer. And from there, he routes you to other websites he has. Just want to mention that.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. I would like to add to that if I could.
Yeah, please do. And in less than 4 minutes, I'll kick off the screen share and of Chief Phil speaking. But go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to second what was just said there because, well, Marco and I have been interested in that, and we had a space here where we were going to give after the first press conference that was here in November 2020, both of us were going to give free energy weekly sessions, and that didn't materialize, unfortunately. I think that would have been really edifying. But this is a huge issue because all of the priorities here that were just discussed today would be made. I mean, who knows what factor you would add in terms of ease if we had free energy. You would liken it to how our ancestors used to have to just hew all the wood, carry all the water, and now functionally all of us are able to be on this Zoom platform, and we're clothed, fairly well fed, heat controlled, all of these things. None of us are doing, there's energy that's doing all this for us. If we can unlock that further with the technologies that Dr. Stephen Greer speaks about, that are already present and are shrouded in this conspiracy theory nonsense, so that you sound like a fool if you talk about it. There's some serious, that we would get a lot of serious traction, I wanted to say, for all of the issues that are here. It would become infinitesimally, it would be far easier to do these things. And the last thing I'd like to say about that is, I think a focal point for that, a possible focus point of interest would be, Stephen Greer has an interview with Army Colonel Thomas Bearden. It's on his site there on the YouTube channel that he has. And it's fascinating. Apparently the theories behind electrical power, we don't fully understand them. And back in the beginning stages, they basically simplified the math to create the circuits that we have today that are essentially self-defeating. We don't need to create the circuits that we do. And that might sound a little bit far out in left field and tin hat, but it's actually the case that Thomas Bearden and 6 other researchers published a paper in a peer-reviewed journal. And there's a Google patent for a motionless electromagnetic generator, which we were all told in high school physics is not possible. You have to have motion to generate electric power. This is not true according to these theories. And And it would seem that the folks that are coming to us from other planets, if you do believe in that, are not using petro fuel or generators to get here. They're accessing this. At any rate, this is a patent. You can look it up. The motionless electromagnetic generator. This is all online. There's a Google patent, and you can look at it. Kate actually brought it to my attention that the Google patent was there. There was somebody at a gas station who showed her that, and we had a synchronous event, a synchronistic event that highlighted that back in November of 2020. But at any rate, that's all I wanted to say about that. I think this is a critical portion of all the other things that we talk about, and it's being suppressed. And I'm not sure what to do about that. I would love to offer that up to discussion.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Christopher. Yeah, so let's definitely pick that up in a bit. Right now, it's the top of the hour. So like I mentioned earlier, I've got to take a call. So I'm going to pause recording. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the recording. So we just listened to the panel on religion and spirituality on Chief Phil's presentation there, and then Brett Weinstein's speech. And James just made the comment that from Brett Weinstein's speech about Elon Musk being one of the opponents to Goliath in terms of being the one platform, the one big platform that he can see that's all about completely free speech, not controlled by major media, government, etc. And of course, look at the opposing narrative that came from big media when Elon acquired Twitter, that, oh, this is a terrible thing and all that. And James's comment, which of course echoes what we discussed right here in this very Zoom room going back a few months ago, that, wow, this is a great thing for free speech, and how can we leverage it for building out the collective intelligence? And after Brett Weinstein, before Brett Weinstein gave that speech, but after he gave his first, had his first panel discussion, I went up to Brett and spoke with him, and I asked him, what did he think about collective intelligence and this network of conversations and all that? And he thought it was great, except he's concerned about the moderating influences of social media, algorithms, AI, etc., at twisting and contorting and filtering and all that. And of course, our position here, speaking for all of us who've been in this conversation for literally years, many years in some of our cases, we believe in a completely open and unmessable with network of conversations along the lines of, the heavenly hashtags, and anyone being able to post their conversation to the universe of conversations, and having that as being a totally open index with as neutral a search and indexing capabilities as we can imagine. But of course, we're not the only ones doing the imagining. Clearly there are some well-funded social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter and others, that as soon as this open network of conversations is really on the map, they're going to each present and concoct. Oh, it looks like did Keith just check out, or is he still here? Okay, he was just thanking us. Okay. Anyway, powerful platforms will get into that game. I don't have any doubt about that, and manipulate it, right? So, how do we keep it unmessable with? I don't even know if I'm being clear right now. So I'm going to pass the feather and see if there's any questions or comments or clarifications that anyone would like to add.
Yeah,
Actually,
sure.
I need to take this call real quick. I apologize. This should be maximum 5 minutes. I'll be back, but carry on. And we.
If the call is for me, I'm not here. Okay. So he's got the problem of fearing competition. And I think Burger King builds across the street from McDonald's because that's where people's come to get hamburgers and where people are coming to get conversation. This, of course, is a place. And he has a little bit of fear that other people are going to figure out it's a good idea. They already have. They just haven't done it exactly the way you're going to do it. They don't have the sauce on the burger exactly the way it is across the street. And that's why people will walk across the street to get that burger. Our job is to design the conversation that's really attractive and that really causes participation. I've taken it a step further. I have established a Saturday morning group that speaks about a particular concept, one concept that's socially very important, and we are discussing it in a way to produce a product for other individuals who are discussing the actual application of the concept. There's a difference. We're discussing the concept which is being used by people to reach a solution to a current big problem. The problem is reparations. And we're discussing reparation, the concept, without any of the nuances of indigenous, Black Americans, Vietnam, cluster bombs, unfair wages. Well, there's a whole bunch of insults you could bring to the table and have a meeting like this and talk a lot. But what do you produce? Well, in this case, your production is conversation. So you're ahead of the game. My production is that we take apart the concept reparation. And every Saturday we are discussing it, building a flow chart and a publication. The publication has the paragraphs of comments that the participants make as we build a flow chart on reparation. I'm just taking up a bunch of time because he's using the phone. So I feel I can do this. So that's why I'm going this far. I'm building a flow chart off of the 6 basic questions. What comes into your mind when I give you 2 words? Reparation, who? Well, to me, 3 questions come right away. Who deserves? Who pays? Who makes sure it's fair? So I got 3 questions right away from the question, reparation who? What happens reparation what? Reparation when? Reparation why? Reparation how? The basic concept of reparation, not as an activity, but as a chart that people who deal in reparations have to ultimately answer all of these questions. They may not have even thought of all the questions, answers, and comments that come from dealing with the idea of reparation, which I think is flowing across the country, needs to be dealt with. And so we meet every Saturday at about 10 in the morning, Anchorage time, for about an hour or so. We review the flow chart. There's a free app that gives you access to your own version of the flow chart. And then if you have a special comment to make about what we're doing on the flow chart, that goes into a transcript and ultimately a publication. And the 2 items that we produce are a graphic flow chart, which is getting more and more complicated as we do, and a publication that would aid a city council, a business group, or maybe even a subcommittee at Congress of dealing with the concept of reparation before they deal with the answer to their particular reparations question. Thank you. I'd like to see any of you Saturday morning. If you want the link, put your email in the chat for me, or send me an email.
You just, your mic is turned off.
Yeah, I think the NSA caught me. If you want the link, to our Saturday meetings. My email is the Joseph Princiota. That's underneath my name there, Joseph with the F, one word, at Gmail. Joseph Princiota at Gmail. And thank you very much for giving me the time. And I'm glad your call came in, Jason. That gave me, you were out of commission, man. I just went right in there and grabbed it.
I like it. Okay, thank you, Joseph. Thank you, and thanks for being here. Yeah, beautiful. So on the thread of this network of conversations, I mean, especially building off what Brett said about freedom of speech and the citizens' assemblies. Of course, he was talking about people just meeting in person, completely unmoderated, unfiltered, uninfluenced by social media, etc. I mean, I consider this gathering right here the equivalent of that. I mean, no one's filtering us, right? We come together because we want to, and we have a very clean, unmanipulated means of finding each other and connecting. And so what I basically envision is this, but expanded out across so many other meetings, gatherings, online, in person, all the above, and some form of a map, a star chart, a map of the heavens of all of these conversations so that we can find each other, cross-pollinate, travel throughout the heavens, something like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy of conversations, so that we can go to Joseph's conversations on a Saturday, find Shannon's meeting on Tuesday afternoon, evening, all the above. And it doesn't seem that hard. In fact, a close analogy to this, or a metaphor for this, would be an internet of conversations, right? And for all the manipulations of social media and everything else, let's just look at the internet for the moment. The internet is still free. Anyone can create a website. Anyone can create a podcast, etc. Search is still an issue. It's not perfect, but we have multiple different search engines to use. And so think like the internet of web pages and everything else that's on the internet, but a parallel internet of conversations, right? Joseph has something to say there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's going to need to activate his mic.
By popular demand, I'm muted. Time. I appreciate the value that there is in conversation, and I appreciate the energy that you are expressing, and the point that a lot of, like, my discussions, and then of course I'm on Zoom every day at noon. I have since the pandemic. I'm on every day at 6 p.m. and I've got a small group that we chat with just to keep our sanity. But I actually feel the time constraint. Why would I search widely for some group that I might join to become a new member to a conversation that's already going on? Now I come in, new picture on the screen. I don't know exactly where you've been. Are you going to stop? And this was the mistake that Richard Gage kept making with 9/11. In the early days of our 9/11 group, I have a cousin who died in the South Tower, firefighter, okay, enough. New people would come to a very important discussion, and the whole damn discussion would collapse. To introduce them or to bring them to speed, or with the courtesy that they deserve, destroyed the conversation. And if our bulldozer just kept rolling, people who did come in felt rolled over and not recognized. So I offered, and we for a short time tried it, but it didn't work, I'll admit, mentors. Oh, we'd say, what's her name? Shannon, you just came in. Shannon, hold on. Who's going to mentor Shannon? I'm Joe Princiota. Shannon, you got my email. hang on, this conversation is going to go crazy, but we got to get back to it. I'll be with you after the show. Stay on. Okay, back to the conversation. We recognized you. We tied you to a mentor. Off camera, you're going to ask all kinds of questions, get all kinds of answers, be much more involved in the next conversation, and have been recognized without stopping. The damn problem was every new person stopped us. Every person, I still go on Sundays to a 9/11 war room out of concern that sometime something will happen. There is a gentleman who just discovered certain explosive evidence. For goodness sake, we're family members. We knew that in 2002. Come on. But the whole conversation every Sunday has to drop back because, just like here, just like James, the courtesy of allowing people to speak is both a benefit and a detriment to the flow of whatever the conversation is. So part of my offering is think about a mentor in your more complicated conversation groups. This is a planning group. You don't need mentors. These are people coming in who don't need. But in the other situations, they will be there and they can mess up your conversation totally if you give them the recognition they deserve. It's a problem.
I see Kate has her hand up. I'd like to recognize her. Hey, Kate. I can imagine you
And
fumbling.
Kate, you're
Yeah,
muted,
it's
but safe. Yeah,
finding those. Yeah, it's finding those buttons when you're on the road. But I think I got it now. I'm
You
just out of
do.
the rest area, so I did miss a little bit of what Jim is saying. I had to gas up and things. But Joseph, I think I want to reiterate and just suggest that yes, the conversations are already happening in such enormity. And that's where it's kind of the battle, not the battle continues, if you will, to really continue to weave these different conversations together. And so what I know is for us all, I feel a real core group that is here today, and that we've all been branching out, reaching out, exploring different groups, establishing and maintaining our networks that we already have, and that, but we recognize that this is really the place to converge now. We've seen the egoic thing. We've seen the warnings about spiritual egotism. We've seen the warnings about spiritual bypassing. We've seen the warnings from every corner of the earth. We've heard the call of the hungry, the needy, of the earth herself, and recognize that, oh my gosh, the time is now. We must figure it out. We must take our message to the networks, unify. And so that's how I think that it's really happening, on such a tangible level as I watch all this 3D world. But soon I will be at who knows? It's always another spiritual delight once you get through this. The getting there, once you get there. Anyway, I appreciate you listening to my ramblings, and because I know the conversations are happening, and it is as Joseph says. I mean, like right now, that's kind of what I love about some of the groups I'm in. That when we can have a topic to focus around. Here we're such free flow, visionary, realizing the cosmic stages now, and it's what we do now, and the pregnant potential of every moment. So I just feel like we've been inspired by some great words here today. So I want to hear, the rest of the vision stuff that I missed from everyone. Loving you all. Later. Pass the feather. Thank you for listening.
Oh, loving you, Kate. Absolutely. If I might,
love you.
Thank you, Jamin. Beautiful man. I am so much a believer in conversation, Joseph. It's part of the platform that I was given. The unity of all of us arises through conversations. I'm I put a link in about the 5-5 ceremony. It takes you to my website, which is Our Heart Gardens. And that is a concept of connected, like internet connected, indoor gardens in communities everywhere where we grow our own food and grow good kids and help each other to heal and figure out how to live in abundance of good things for everyone. And yet the conversations are difficult, but it is in the addressing of the difficult things that the bonds grow tighter. And it's not going to be an agreement that weaves us together. It is the disagreements that allow us to learn who each other are, and help us to rise above our own positions to realize a position that holds us all. I appreciate Kate saying it's good to have a subject to talk around and about, and that desire inspired me to join Humanity Rising back when the lockdown happened. I desired change, and change wasn't allowed to me, and so they had Jim Garrison presents different people talking about the problems that we're encountering and solutions to them. And every day there's a different panel, and we talk about different things from democracy to climate change and spiritual issues and ceremony and ritual and youth mental health or not, suicide and all of these things. I mean, every day there's something to talk about. And in the after chat that started on day 60 of Humanity Rising, it rose from the curiosity of one man wondering, who are all these people who enter their comments in the chat? Maybe they'd like to talk to each other. And so he invited us over to his Zoom room, and we have been going ever since. And so there's over 600 after chats to go with the over 600 Humanity Rising episodes. And so each day there's a new subject. And what I needed to give you the background to the issue that I'm that has been put in our plate, and that is the difficulty with well, Kevin came and he beats his drum about diversity, and he is sometimes a little less than respectful. The subject yesterday had to do with youth mental illness, and we had a group of young people on the panel. And when Kevin saw the panel, he reacted saying, well, where's the diversity in that? And he continued in a rather poisonous way. And Jim, the host of Humanity Rising, ejected him. So he went to the after chat. And so we went to we joined him in the after chat after Humanity Rising was over. And he continued to be his offended self. And it was, and then we had 3 of the panelists join us. Not only did we have Paula Petrie, who had convened the young people, we had Jim Garrison and one of the young people who had been on the call. And so I'm the moderator. I work with Stan, and so I'm trying to make it okay, and to keep Kevin from taking over the whole call and disrespecting our guests. Here, this young man is, 13 or 15 years old, and Kevin gets on and he says, "I want to ask you 2 questions." And he said, "Were you offended by what I said in the chat?" And the young man said no, and tried to continue to speak, but Kevin interrupted him. And my second question is, would you be offended if you learned that I was ejected from the call? And the young man said no. I had no, it's not my call. It's, and so Kevin was incensed again that he wouldn't be incensed at being, and so today Kevin came to the after chat again. And today the presentation on Humanity Rising was about Chartreuse. And they have a pilgrimage that happens each year. And this is a wonderful spiritual gathering, and we had amazing people. And so when we get to the after chat, Kevin is there and he's muted, and he decided to get into part of the conversation, and he moved the conversation over to his platform, as in it was all about him and his woe is me, and it was very difficult. As much as the conversation can be derailed by someone coming into the conversation, it can be derailed by someone already in the conversation who does not respect what's going on. And the boundaries are really important, like that. Joseph, would you like to say something?
Well, like Crocodile Dundee, that's not a hand, that's a hand. That's not a knife, that's a knife. Bless you. This is the difficulty when we open. So far, we open your mind. So far, the brains fall out. We're too open. What is the procedure? Now, I have a PowerPoint that I show every Saturday before we get into it. And part of the PowerPoint points out that our meeting is not a zero sum game. Number one, we're not playing a game with these conversations. If you're not serious, it's like getting on Twitter with an anonymous. They don't know who you are. You can piss on them. No, everyone here is identified. Everyone here is responsible for their communication. But the understanding is, and my PowerPoint, if I had share screen, I'd love to run it sometime or give it to you guys. This is the common courtesy. I have it so that the different lines illuminate. It's common courtesy. This is not a zero-sum game. This is not a debate. We are not debating. There's nothing to win. And then the last one is, I would hope that we could pull, not push each other. And now, if you had such a comment at the beginning, then you have the ability to refer to it and tell him, you're pushing. Why are you pushing? Didn't you read the sign as you walked in the door? But you don't have a sign over your door. So I suggest you make one. I'll be happy to help you, even to the degree of PowerPoint backgrounds, which I have, not PowerPoint, I mean Zoom backgrounds. I've got about 340. Yeah, because I tell stories with them. I make them move, or I do silly big hands, or I do things like a poster that I think is really important. Well, that's not the poster. That's the poster.
Wherever it leads. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'm happy to help if I can, but you need a sign over the door so that they know what they're responsible for on the way in. The problem with Twitter is that you can be anonymous. The problem with any of these postings is you can say crap and nobody knows who you are. That's one of the things we need to do right away. Right, is make sure that you're responsible for what you put in front of everybody.
Yeah.
This is something I put in front of everybody. That's one of my paintings.
I'd like to
It's
pick up the feather.
it's a tribute to Sidney Lawrence. I know it's a copy.
I'd like to pick up the feather. I've sat in quite a few different organizations, different groups, different all sorts of things. Definitely, I think guidelines are important. And there's definitely differences between, say, a presentation that everybody is there to listen. You know, if we're trying to teach respect, we have to show respect. We have to live respect. We have to talk respect and walk respect. Right? If we're trying to, I mean, one of the first things too is creating those safe containers.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I believe that everybody can speak their mind and can add to the conversation, but at the same time, there has to be respect, right? And things like that. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I think that when someone, I mean, especially if you want to keep showing up day after day and repeating the same thing, go for it. But at the same time, if you're, say, in a circle where things are being presented and people are talking amongst themselves, then one, I think that when people sit there and put their suggestions or opinions or their voice into the circle, they don't have to browbeat anyone with it. You're not there to convince anyone. You want the energetics. You want the you want the global consciousness to be able to hear these words. So I think that's too, a lot of people will sit there and make their point, will make their point, will make their point over and over again. One of the principles that Chief Philip goes by and Joan totally displays in the talking circles, you know, as well as equal time shared by everyone in the group. So when you have one or two or three people monopolizing the conversation, that becomes a disbalance or an imbalance as well. So opening it up, so in almost like a circle presentation where everyone has the ability, the opportunity to speak before everyone speaks a second time is very important. Even if, say, no one has a chance or no one has anything to say, that should be up to them to be able to say that. Like, for instance, I've barely heard from Alan. So it would be like, Alan, do you have anything to add? You know, and if he doesn't, you can sit there and say, no, I'm good right now, and pass it along. But at least we've given everyone in that meeting, in that group, the opportunity to speak. I think too that it's done without judgment. Being done without judgment, browbeating people, that all falls under the respect guidelines. I think everybody wants to be heard, but it's very important to remember that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we listen twice as much as we speak, right? Again, speaking without judgment, speaking, you know, one at a time so that we're not talking over each other. Those sorts of things, whoever is facilitating really, really needs to have a hold and a grasp of those guidelines or of that basket so that they can gently remind people of those things. And I think that when you have those guiding principles for whatever group it is, I then as a participant can decide whether I want to follow those or not, but they're set out. right? And some things maybe aren't for me, so I won't go to certain meetings. And then sometimes it's like, oh, I like that. Yes, this is the way it runs, or they're talking about something I want to participate in, and this is the guidelines I need to follow to be there. Okay. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll put the feather back in. Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually one of the ground rules of space. If you have the rules there, then people can follow them. If they're not there, then they can do what they want. And if you don't post the rules, people don't know. And I really, really appreciate this conversation. And yeah, Jamin, thank you so much for creating the space for such a conversation. Yeah. I see James. James going to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. And thanks for that as well, Claudia, because yeah, it's basically that is it. I mean, at the end of the day, when you think about the type of conversations we're having, then and we're putting those conversations out there to letting people know that they're available to join those conversations. Generally we do tend to get the type of people who want to be in those conversations. It's very rarely you come across the person who wants to come in to mess it up. But that does happen. You have the Zoom bombers, I know, but it's rare is what I'm saying. And yes, there has been occasions, especially when we were starting off with the block party as well, where you will come across the odd person who seems to be taking things personal and not getting the point that it's not all about them, that it's about shared conversation. So you do come across these different situations. But I also, like Joseph's point as well, this is another issue we dealt with first year of the block party, was the fact that with people coming in constantly, again, yes, you do have to stop the conversation, the flow of conversation, to introduce them, to get to know them. And then, of course, they might want to speak. They don't really know the rules, and they might go off on one then and go into one, and you don't want to be interrupted. So anyway, we know the rule, we know the situation. What we did for that here as well, and unfortunately, we haven't maintained the practice of it. But what we did at the time was we opened up what we called the campfire room, which is where you would arrive when you come in here. And someone was always able to man the campfire, but the main conversation was in a breakout room. And that way then we can have the conversation, but if somebody comes in, rather than interrupting the flow of conversation, they can be met by one person who's saying, what's happening? This is a crack, this is the rules, this is the, it's only it's a conversation, or maybe at the moment it's a presentation. So just, observe it as a way, like with everybody else, and afterwards there may be a chance for you to ask a question or two, and we'll introduce you to the everybody after the main speakers are finished or whatever. But blah blah blah, they get introduced by one person in the campfire room before they go into the main room, and they don't have to interrupt the flow of conversation. They can just be hello. The person that brings them in can say, don't want to interrupt the flow of conversation, please carry on, but all please welcome, we say, Shannon in the chat, and that's that done. But the point is, when you come across the odd cantankerous person, we say, because we had one guy here one night and he was literally losing it so much, he was taking an axe out and everything, and he was lashing things around his room with an axe and everything. So it was crazy. But I mean, that's the way, this is what happens. Like when you have a situation like that, then as well, because we have the campfire, you don't have to automatically eject the person completely out of the conversation. You can take them out into the campfire then, where one person who usually there's always a person who's good with talking people, getting, find out what's the crack with them without actually just getting rid of them straight away. That is, in my essence, that's unfair as well. It's not giving that person the opportunity at least to try and get us frustrated, or at least explain his frustration, and then get and have an opportunity for someone to give him that time and then come back with, look, okay, I get where you're coming from, let's have a chat about it, and then you can maybe, calm that person down, and they can come back to the conversation at a later date or even that time. But the point is, you don't eject them straight away. So the breakout room, we should maintain it from now on, I reckon, to deal with these situations, and have somebody in the campfire to welcome newcomers at all times. That's just my suggestion.
No shoes, no shirt, no service. We reserve the right And then you know, one verbal, two written warnings, some kind of process. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, definitely. That has to be made clear as well. Like that, you know, nobody wants, you know, we don't want to make it a rule thing or anything else. But I mean, common courtesy is common courtesy. It's as simple as that. And if you can't respect common courtesy, there's not a place for you here. Like that's just both the sides of it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it really goes back to, again, we really teach and we allow people to treat us, blah, blah, blah. You know that saying. And again, it's like when I go to, say, someone else's home, those rules and guidelines are different than, say, in my home, than in a public space, in a public gathering. I think as long as we also do it with respect back and compassion, you know, I mean, again, we want to educate people, not disqualify, not single out, not, again, that disunification. But if we can do it in a gentle and healthy way and teach by example, you know, you kind of, it's like a child at first, right? That slight scolding, you know, and again, it's how do you do it? How do you approach them? Because people listen better, you know, with different techniques, right? So again, if you're telling someone, you know, what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate, you know, and if it escalates, for some people only need a gentle reminder. If it escalates, then maybe they do need to, you know, on that timeout, you know, they need to be removed from the situation. It gives them a time to reflect as well. Do they really want to be a part of it? Why are they being a part of it? You know, and I think that if we put those things into place a lot more, again, you're allowing people to participate, but with certain behavior or certain guidelines being added.
Yeah, well, I thank you all very, very much for hearing me and for giving me such good advice. Joseph, I have an email to you already drafted, and I look forward to having you meet Stan. You're an adorable fella. And I do look forward to, oh, sure, there's other parts of you I know. I look forward to knowing you better. And Jamin, you're adorable as well. And I'm really glad to be a part of your family. Claudia, I'm so glad you're back. Yeah. Bye for now.
Love
Kate?
you, Shannon, sister. Thank you so much for being here and just bringing your love and heart. And you just, woof, you elevate us all.
I love you all. Bye for now. Kate, drive careful. Bye for now.
Say well.
Bye, Shannon.
What a wonderful group we've got here today.
It's good.
It's beautiful.
So much wonder.
And everyone is so respectful and relatively concise. No one's got an axe to grind. There's none of that kind of toxicity that Shannon was bringing up an example of earlier. I'm just super grateful for you all and all of your love and contributions.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, they say. You know, the proof is in the pudding. And if we can, as a group of, you know, people from different parts of the world, can even sit for moments totally quiet without anyone trying to get in with their word or anything, that proves that what we're doing is working. We can sit in quiet as well, like not only just everybody trying to get their say or anything. that proves that we're, you know, we're gelling well and we're more like family than, you know, just as a group of people from around the world. We are family, like, you know what I mean? We're becoming family. We're becoming connected. As myself and Jamin and Marco were talking about there, we didn't have Black Party since the 28th of February, I think, or something like that. We missed it for a few weeks with the travelling going on and everything else. And there wasn't an actual Black Party. And we also meet on Tuesday nights as well, Marco and Jamin and a few others. And we have our meetings if we have things to be doing. But we do a lot of brainstorming and a lot of deep conversations. So anyway, we missed those for the last 4 weeks. And we were kind of out of sorts, like out of equilibrium there when we came back from Mexico. You know what I mean? We weren't, as I said, I was trying to make a cup of tea the other night. I boiled the kettle and I was trying to put the kettle into the fridge. I didn't, you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking straight. Like I was saying wrong words and things like that. And So I was missing my, you know, we were out of sync. And we got back into conversation the other night, and you know, we all remarked on it, that we noticed it, like that we weren't ourselves because we weren't together, and that's what's happening here, as far as I'm concerned. Our family is growing, and that's what we're all about, anyways, growing our family, becoming one human family. So yeah, I mean, if we could do this on a micro scale, of course we could do it on the macro scale. That's all I say, anyway. So onwards and upwards, and then getting a cup of tea now for myself, but I won't put the kettle in the fridge.
Anyway, fill the empty space. It was Pascal who said Americans can't be alone, quiet in an empty room for any length of time. I don't know what I'm misquoting, but you know the feeling. That's America. We got to be entertained all the time. Well, it's 11:58 in Anchorage, and I do a noon Zoom every day. So thank you for today, and I'll catch you guys on the comeback. Email if you can. And for heaven's sakes, write if you get work, will you? I need the money.
Joseph, great to.
Hi,
I was going to
Joseph.
say he can't hear you. I was trying to say great to see you also. Yeah, exactly. Well, if no one else has anything to say at the moment, I've been compiling a bunch of thoughts um, regarding, um, this whole universe of conversations. We talked a fair amount of time was dedicated in the last hour or so to talking about, rules. And my partner Melissa doesn't like the term rules, so she uses creative agreements. We're talking about the same thing, right? And so I'm envisioning a universe of conversations where each conversation can either select from, a variety of different, rule books, right? Or co-create their own, right? And some can be very, very constraining. Oh yeah, thank you, Claudia. Yeah. Agreements. What are we agreeing to? Rules sound like something imposed from above. Agreement sounds like something that we co-create. But at the end of the day, we end up with agreements, whether they're given to us or we co-create it. That's why I say we're ultimately talking about the same thing, but with different paradigms, perhaps. But anyway, back to the universe of conversations. Each conversation within the universe can have its own distinct agreements, right? Nothing wrong with that. And in addition to agreements, there's something that's a bit more subtle, perhaps, and that is culture. You know, what is the culture and spirit of the conversation, right? And another is, you know, what is the basic format of the conversation? Or, you know, just like you go out in nature and there's all these different animals, and how do you make sense of it? Well, biologists come along and say, well, there's all these different species, and let's create this whole taxonomy of species. You know, Linnaeus famously created the first taxonomy of species in biology, the tree of life, blah, blah, blah. What if we did the same sort of thing with different types of conversations? So I started to make a list here, and I think I've got probably, you know, around 20 or so elements of the list. I'm just going to read through it in 90 seconds or less. So fasten your seatbelt. And here's a quick list of types of conversations. Here, I'll show you the list first. See, it says taxonomy of conversations, right? So there it is. I'll read it from top to bottom. The block party. This is a type of conversation. Humanity rising, as Shannon mentioned, much more structured, etc. The after chat, which follows after Humanity Rising. The glass beads game that happens right here in this room every Sunday, starting at noon Pacific time. The World Cafe format, which is a dynamic back and forth between main room and a bunch of breakout rooms, then back to the main room, etc. A debate. We've held debates here in this Zoom room, going back to the early days of the block party. A hangout. People just getting together and hanging out and just being social and talking about whatever they want to talk about, right? That happens here, like in the after hours, right? Nothing wrong with that. A presentation with Q&A. An educational course that might be a 4-part course or 10-part course or whatever. Speed networking, which might happen again as a dynamic interaction between a main room and then breakout rooms where people talk one-on-one for a few minutes and get to know each other. And then they can figure out if they want to follow up with who, and et cetera, and that can be very structured or otherwise. Mentoring, tutoring, training. A support group. A research project, like let's get together once a week and dig for the truth about 9/11 or the truth about COVID and NIH and whatever else. Another can be a meeting to do co-creative writing. We've done that on multiple Tuesday meetings where we've gotten together and co-create, you know, and my goodness, we come up with some really good stuff when we co-creative writing, way better than anything I could have written. The press conference, right? We've done we've done a few of those. All right. Let's give Michael a warm Michigander welcome. Michael. Hey there, Michael. Great to see you. Michael, check this out. We've been having a really cool meeting up until now. And with you here, now it's perfect. All right. Hey, Michael, great to see you. I'm almost done with a list that I've been talking about. So a list of the different types of kind of meetings, conversations that we can have. So we talked about the press conference. Another type of conversation or meeting can be just a check-in. Hey, let's everyone give kind of a three-minute check-in. What's, you know, like a team getting together and everyone kind of giving a check-in or updates. Another can be a co-creative jam session. I would say I would posit that's what this is now. We're having a co-creative jam session about conversations, collective intelligence, the universe of conversations, etc. Another could be a meeting to get together and do group meditation, yoga, whatever. Another could be, let's all get together at this time and watch this documentary together. We all want to watch it. We might as well watch it together, and then we can have a conversation right after it when it's all fresh, right? You know, and on and on. So that's a list of around 20 different types of conversations, and I'm just getting started, right? So now imagine a whole universe, right, where there's hundreds of different types of conversations and thousands of each type, right? That equates to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different conversations spanning all different types. And then you've got language, you've got duration, you've got timing, and then overlay. So if that whole taxonomy, right, think of this as one dimension, you know, going vertical. Imagine a horizontal dimension that spans different rule sets. Sorry, scratch that, scratch the LP. Creative agreements, different cultures of conversation. Different, and you know, is the conversation recorded or not? That's a pretty big deal, right? Is it transcribed or not? You know, these are all these different, let's just say, toggle switches on the mixing board, right? So we have tremendous, you know, variation. And so what we're really talking about is a vast ecosystem of conversations, a garden of conversations, a universe of conversations. I use all these different metaphors, right? And with that, I'm going to pass the feather. And we are recording, speaking of. And Suzanne, I love your smile. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks for your contribution. That's awesome what you just shared. I just wrote it down. Wonderful. So inspiring. I mean, this could be like, I just, when you mentioned that, I listened to my heart. You know, I have some friends here, they are Tibetan, they're from Tibet. And I just wondered if I could invite them for, let's say, a Tibetan conversation with other cultures, or ask them for meditations, or, you know, what you just mentioned is limitless, almost limitless to use, especially when you want to connect with other cultures. This is wonderful. Just keep on talking. I'm wandering my mind as well. You know, it's wonderful. That's really connecting people. That's how you connect people. Give them a voice, let them talk, let them share. You know, this is wonderful. Keep on doing, Jamin. Keep on doing that. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I will. You know, I just added 2 more to the list just while you were talking. Another type of conversation is a week-long conference. You know, Suzanne, how did we meet? On Enlightening Our Way Together, a week-long conference. Another, based on what you just talked about, is a cultural mashup. You know, going back a couple of years ago, we used to have a standing thing in the late afternoon, early evening of every block party, and we called it El Puente, which is Spanish for the bridge. And it was a Spanish-English mashup. And so we had people joining from South America who were just learning English. And, you know, so we also had going back to 3 years ago, we had like a youth segment where people could bring their kids and the kids would ask questions and this and that. So a youth elder kind of mashup. I'm adding that to the list. I mean, I've got we're going on a couple dozen, but again, we're going to have hundreds at the end of the day of different species of conversation. Right.
Can you
Passing
also,
the feather.
thank you. Can you also divert it? Youth elder mashup and children teaching or children sharing the youth and elders, because sometimes they have very good ideas and can speak from the heart and be heard.
So children educating elders
and youth, yes.
Okay, so
they are that just came to on this they just born, or they have a how do you say that, sometimes children have a lot to teach from their perspective, that they're very pure people. Just love children. If not 3 years old, but then they need to have a certain kind of ability to talk already, and it's not determined by the age. It's determined by the maturity they have, or they are already. For example, they are lovely teachers to share how to be joyful, or like in the middle of in the center. They're very centered. Not all of them, but some children are very centered and very clear. Do you have children, Shaman?
No, I look like I'm pregnant, but I actually don't have children. No, and my whole life I've wanted to have children. Now that I'm almost 55, I'm a bit past that stage. But actually, I'm just very grateful for my life as it is right now, because I have all this time to spend with all of you. You are my children. My children.
So good.
It goes back to our sister schools opportunity, whereby we're creating sister schools together. We're facilitating that, and part of that could be Zoom rooms between different schools, conversations amongst kids, where the adults can step aside and let kids share where they're from, what they do every day, and all that. So sister schools, sister communities.
Beautiful. I just added it to the list.
And teachers would love a break, if they had a break of an hour during a school week, where they could just let the kids communicate and give them guided communication. Teachers would love that international interaction.
I used to be a day camp counselor. Well, what does that mean? In the summer, parents who are working would bring their, there's no school, so the parents would bring their kids and drop them off at the daycare center, which is a building in the middle of a park and playground and all that. And we had the most wonderful time. So I'm going to put here, day camp kind of sessions where kids can get on and be entertained and educated and all that, and their parents can have a break or whatever, or teachers, like you say, Michael. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, what just came into my mind is let children say what they think about the future, what the future would like, what they are loving to see for their own future. You know, it's very important. Or it can be a very good place to give them strength to be heard. You know, you ask children, how would you like to grow up, or how should be the society be look like when you're growing into it, you know. So kind of some I don't talk anymore English. That kind of conversations I would love to see.
And there's all kinds of, you know, retired teachers like Eric, for example, who are out there that could facilitate such a thing with other teachers. You know, we could enlist some retired teachers to interact, you know, with the other teachers, because they've been there, they've done that, you know. I was talking about teaching with Eric, who's in Spain, and he runs the glass bead session, Susan, and others on Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time. It's a great game where it's a word game, communication game, but he's a good teacher. I wondered about Socratic teaching, but for his subject matters, math and science, that didn't work as well. He said only the smartest kids would be helped by that. But anyway, there's different teaching methods, of course. There's the all-encompassing anyway, there's various methods of teaching. High Scope is a great teaching organization, HIGHSCOPE, highscope.org or .edu. It's a great teaching method if you're interested in Suzanne in teaching kids or how kids learn. That's a great resource. High Scope is a great nonprofit here in Michigan, but it's internationally known. It was started by the guy who helped to start Head Start, the program to help kids with preschool learning in the United States. Head Start is a federal program to teach younger kids before kindergarten about schooling education. Anyway, I'm going sideways, sorry.
No problem. Can you spell it? Can you put it in the chat, please?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, yeah.
And thank you for catching yourself there, Michael. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, we've had a really nice flow going here, just kind of a very expansive conversation about this vast universe of conversations. I think it is just beckoning and absolutely essential to our survival and essential to the expansion of collective intelligence, especially in the face of AI, right? Artificial intelligence, and AGI, artificial general intelligence, which Brett Weinstein from the previous speech talked about and said, this changes everything, right? So, Gabrielle, let's give a warm welcome to Gabrielle. Is that the Gabrielle we know? There we go, Gabrielle. Oh my goodness. Gabrielle, we've been having a really cool meeting up until now. And with you here,
you here
now it's
perfect.
Perfect.
And Marco's
Hey,
here. Marco, my
Yeah.
temporary neighbor. Hey,
Actually,
Marco.
is Marco, you there? Anyway, we are recording and we can pause anytime.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Oh, no. Let it flow. Let it flow. Oh, there's Marco. Hey there, Marco. Are you taking a nap, Marco?
Oh, he was scuba diving again.
Scuba diving again. Yep. All right.
Oh,
Was I muted the whole time?
yeah.
Yes, you were. That's why we
Okay.
were ignoring you. We couldn't hear you.
You know, I took a nap when you came back.
You said, "Oh, great, Jamin's back. Perfect time to take a nap." All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, man.
that was pretty much it.
No, well, thanks for hanging in there, Marco, while I was away. Mhm.
Good. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, and Susanna, I appreciate your very positive and encouraging feedback. And just full disclosure, I've been working on this thing called collective intelligence for 10 years now, where it's been, the single biggest thing I've worked on for now a decade. And I can't emphasize enough.
CSI,
Yeah,
CSI, or just CI.
Both.
Oh, okay.
So CSI stands for Collective Superintelligence, right? Which I believe we are right on the cusp of, and that's based on human intelligence. There's artificial general intelligence, and then there's collective superintelligence from humans. Now, what's really interesting and potentially scary is when those two come together, right? And I actually see collective superintelligence from humans, this vast universe of conversations, hyper-connected and easily searchable, with recordings, with transcripts, with chat GTP like summaries of the transcripts, so you don't have to read through hundreds of pages of transcript. You can just get like a 5-minute summary, right? Wow, all this really will help facilitate, and then AI learning your preferences, and AI understanding what you know and what you don't know, right? So that when the AI gives you a summary of, let's say, some great conversation has been going for months and you just found out about it, it's like, hey, AI, bring me up to speed, but in a way that's contextually aware to my context, that respects what I know and what I don't know, right? And as you give me that summary, give me the ability to pause and say, whoa, hold it right there. You just said this. Can you tell me more about that? Yeah. And then it expands on that, whether drawing from the transcripts of the conversation or drawing from the internet or wherever else ChatGPT is drawing from, right? So the possibilities are just sky high, endless. And I think that collective human intelligence is our best bet at, for lack of a better word, taming this artificial intelligence, cat out of the bag, that without our taming it, either we tame it or it's going to tame us. And either we enter into a symbiotic relationship with it, or we enter into another kind of relationship with it. And, I think this is a defining choice that we get to make as humanity. Just like as humanity, we got to make choices about how do we deal with this thing called COVID, right? We now have choices to make about how do we deal with this thing called artificial intelligence. And there aren't any easy answers that I can see, but we've got to engage with it. The big, I mean, the big opportunities of artificial intelligence and collective superintelligence in the face of the beyond gargantuan problems of exponential global warming, mass extinction, runaway capitalism, runaway concentration of power, by Goliath, per Brett Weinstein's term and description. I can't think of a more exciting moment to be alive, frankly, or a more dangerous moment, or a moment more filled with potential. I mean, it's all here at once. It's like, of the last 250,000 years of human existence, it's all coming to a head right now. Passing the feather.
I think no, I was on what's the name for it? I lost the word in English. Fundraising and training, which was 14 days with Arco from the Netherlands. He sometimes uses a GTP chat, the chat GTP. He's a fundraiser since over 10 years, and he fundraised $250 million for different kind of organizations, and he loves fundraising, and he uses he taught us how to use ChatPTT. How do you say that? He fed the AI with all these type of fundraising platforms, like for the ocean, a healthy ocean, save the animals in the ocean. He wrote it down and feed the IA to it, and all these other kind of types of fundraisings in the world. And I just tried it out, and it's amazing. You can write down something. Please send me a summary to fundraise, or to give me a message, a press release for, let's say, save the ocean, and this intelligence write it down in one. It's amazing. It's really amazing. I never thought this is incredible. This is the positive side from it, what I saw with my own eyes. The other thing, I don't have experience, frankly said. I don't see the threat, a real threat of an intelligence you feed and you use. I heard about that. Probably they can take control over. There are some kind of possibilities that could work, but I don't see evidences on that. So, and I know in Switzerland, some universities are using it for writing a presentation, or even if you doctorate in something, the IA can really help you to find a nice sentences, the nicest words you can get. It's a tool. It's wonderful.
Hey, welcome. Is that Melissa?
It is. I'm driving, so I'm trying to pay attention to the road, and you guys is the same time, so I might drop out a little bit.
No worries. Safety first there, Melissa. And we are recording at the moment, and we're having a really awesome meeting. And Melissa, with you here, now it's perfect. I met Melissa at the INC'23 conference, the Independent National Convention, and we were reviewing that earlier, and listened to a couple of recordings from the conference, and now we're in a much expanded conversation about this emergent universe of conversation. So just like this conversation that's happening right here on Zoom, there are millions of these. And, you know, most of them are used for business, commerce, whatever, blah, 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 education. This one happens to be about saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth. And so we're talking about really the whole gamut of all of the above as a universe of conversations, or an internet of conversations, if you prefer, and how all of these conversations in the universe, you know, cluster in constellations and cluster along types of conversations, topics of conversations. We've come up with a whole taxonomy of different forms and formats and species of conversations, irrespective of topic, just format and structure. We've come up with a couple dozen in the taxonomy just today, just brainstorming it. Anyway, just getting you up to speed super briefly, and I know you're super intelligent, so that's easy for you to make a lot of a little information and understand what we're talking about.
Thank you. Yes. Fractals.
Yeah, exactly. Give Melissa a little chunk of a fractal and poof, she'll extrapolate the whole thing while she's driving. So and we're talking about, you know, the collective intelligence represented by all of that, and appropriately put together and facilitated with such things as search indexes, browsing capabilities, recording, transcription, and feeding those transcripts to Chat GPT, et cetera, how all of this universe of conversations can evolve into a collective super intelligence based mainly on human intelligence, but certainly lubricated and facilitated, buttressed, and supported by other technologies, including but not limited to Chat GPT, indexing and search, browsing capabilities, you know. And when I say Chat GPT, there's so much contained just in those 3 letters, of course, taking whole transcripts of month-long conversations and summarizing them into a 5-minute bite, or a 1-minute bite if you prefer, etc., or a 1-hour bite if you prefer. So just incredible tools at our disposal right now, which really crack open the latent collective superintelligence of humanity, which is sorely needed at this moment in our planetary and human history. And with that, I pass the talking feather.
Well, I would say, and currently anyway in the world at the moment, like, there is big fears about artificial intelligence. Even President Biden mentioned it in a speech in Dublin there 2 days ago when he was giving a speech to the Irish government in his visit to Ireland, and he mentioned the dangers of artificial intelligence as well. And at the end of the day, like, we can't deny its existence anymore, because it's created in a sense, like, and these algorithms can be just programmed to do, but it's the research and is what they're talking about and where it's going and all that. So we know the dangers of it, but we also know that, you know, we're stuck with the internet basically as part of our lives now. Like, it's not something that will go away unless let's literally say, unless the plug was pulled and we had no electricity anymore, so to speak. But we have to learn to use it, and this is probably about the most benevolent way you could use it, and artificial intelligence can be programmed to be benevolent, you know what I mean, in a sense, like to have its own prime directive, so to speak, like here talking in that manner or fashion. But this is what I'm saying, like it can be done that way. But unfortunately, then you have the rogue element of where it's in the hands of other, you know, no, it can't be controlled that for the moment anyway, like with rogue elements. But again, that's what we're before the that's the point I'm making. Before computers ever came along, we always had rogue elements on the planet. Like, I mean, you know, if you go back to the time when we were all writing letters to each other and there was no such thing as computers, is what I'm saying. But there was still good and bad in the world. So, you know, we have to get on with the good and bad, because there is no good without bad anyway. And that's just a matter of fact, like. So that's going to be a case as well with artificial intelligence. So the only way to combat the evil side of artificial intelligence is for good people like ourselves to get together and work on ways of making artificial intelligence benevolent, and that way more appealing to the broader portion of life of humanity, like, who are generally out to want, you know, good in life. Like, I mean, you know, let's face it, like, we're not all evil. There's majority of us are good. It's just that the evil forces have a bit of a grip on us at the moment, and we need to, you know, come together. And that's what it all comes back to at the end of the day. It keeps coming back to Chief Phil's simple phrase: we need to come together as one human family, and we need to use these, you know, the technology that's available to us and all the algorithms that are available to us. As Jamin says, I don't pretend to understand any of it. I don't really, but I do know that we have to use it to our advantage. And this is the best way we can, is by good people getting together and figuring out how we can do that. So, passing the feather.
Beautiful, James. Very well said. Since everyone else is muted, I will jump in, but I always like to pause before I do, especially after I've been speaking a fair amount. So just jump in if you have anything you'd like to contribute. Would love to hear from everyone. But building off of what James just said, this actually gets back to something that Brett Weinstein said. So prior to that speech from Tuesday night last week that he gave, that we all listened to, prior to his giving that speech, he was on a panel discussion earlier that day, at which he said that artificial general intelligence, AGI, quite distinct from Chat GPT, artificial general intelligence is going to change and is changing everything. And so what he said in the context of, you know, the duopoly of Democrat, Republican, and all the corruption, what he later referred to as Goliath, one, you know, major David move that we can make relative to Goliath is to get ahead of and leverage AGI and its possibilities better than Goliath, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about here. By all of us independents, right? You know, getting together and co-creating or co-influencing the emergence of this universe of conversations, right? This hyper-connected universe of conversations where things like Chat GPT, as we were talking about, becoming perhaps the most among the most important elements of superglue, of super connectivity in the hyper connection of all these different conversations. See, the big emergent potential here is, see, there's all these millions of conversations that are happening. They just haven't been integrated yet into an amazing, you know, Swiss clock, right? They have not been integrated into a hyper-connected universe, right? Into one giant thing. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Chat GPT, I'll just reiterate the scenario for those who didn't hear it before. You know, all these conversations are happening and there's this barrier to entry. Let's say we find about some really fascinating parallel conversation like this one, but different someplace else in the internet. And we want to connect with it, interface with it, check it out, jump into the room. You know, there's this major on-ramping cost for on-ramping into that conversation for either me as an individual, Suzanne as an individual, or a number of us as a group taking a field trip to that conversation together. And that on-ramping can be made so much smoother and less costly with a nice Chat GPT summary of everything that conversation has talked about during the months or years of its existence. You know, wow, double wow, right? And, you know, beyond a single 5-minute summary, there's of course the opportunity to talk with that Chat GPT and say, hey, tell me more about this, right? What about that? I didn't quite understand what you said about this. Can you expand, elaborate, please? Right, since I don't have a master's degree in sociology. What did you mean by that? Oh, well, I meant this and this. Oh, thank you. You know, whoa, right? So that's what I mean by facilitating the connection between these different conversations, the connectivity, the hyperconnectivity, the emergent hyperconnectivity of this heretofore separate universe of conversations. I mean, it's kind of like the movie Contact, the sci-fi movie Contact with Jodie Foster, you know, but applied to the universe of conversations. We're basically talking about creating wormholes between conversations that you can just bleep and wow, now I'm teleported in a very rich and, you know, mutually empathetic way into this new conversation. And it's a two-way street. I then get to get up to speed. Think on-ramp. What is an on-ramp? It's a thing that gets you up to speed onto the freeway, right? So you don't get run over. I get up to speed on this conversation that I'm now joining, but it's a two-way connectivity. The people in that conversation get up to speed on who the heck Jamin Shively is and what he talks about and what his preferences are and what his politics are and what his philosophy is, right? I think you get what I'm saying. Passing the feather. Go for it, Christopher. What do you think about all this?
I'm going to say, I'm sorry if I missed it, but I'm openly wanting to wonder what this whole Chat GPT phenomenon, which is obviously like in its entry level phases, like this just arrived on the map. It's basic. How would this be implemented in the conversation? Sorry if I missed that. I assume that's already been discussed.
No, that's okay. So first of all, do you have a basic understanding of what Chat GPT is and does?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing with it actually. I'm trying to get it to do my chores for me. It hasn't quite figured that out yet.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So here's the basic scenario, Christopher. Imagine that some dude in Toronto just finds out about the block party 5 minutes from now and is like, whoa, you know, that all sounds really cool. I'd like to, plug in and join the block party. I'm a bit intimidated because you guys have been at this for over 3 years, and you've, clocked now, thousands of hours of conversation. Can you get me up to speed in a way that does not involve me watching thousands of hours of recording, right, for the next 8 months of my life, just to get up to speed? And then Chat GPT can say, sure, here's a 5-minute recap of the basics of what these folks have been talking about in the block party over the past 3+ years. And then you can say, whoa, thank you. The dude in Toronto can then say, wow, let's call him Toronto Joe. Toronto Joe can then say, wow, thank you, Chat GPT. Would you be good enough to please elaborate a bit more on this thing called collective intelligence? And Chat GPT would say, sure, blah, blah, blah. How much do you want to know? Right? Do you want to know a 1-minute summary, 10-minute summary, or 1-hour summary? And you say, well, start me off with a 10-minute summary. I'm really kind of keen on it. And then Chat GPT gives them a 10-minute summary. And they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so blown away. Give me the 1-hour deeper 1-hour summary now, and go deeper into this and this and this. See, like right now, I'm being your Chat GPT assistant, Christopher.
Yes.
And you're saying, tell me more about the Chat GPT scenario, and that's what I'm doing for you.
That's fantastic. So essentially, this is going to like turbocharge the conversation.
Oh my goodness. It's going to be to the Internet of Conversations what Google was to the Internet in 1999. It's going to turbocharge your ability to find stuff, get up to speed on stuff, etc.
Amazing.
Except even more powerful than Google, because it's way smarter. It's way more capable.
So we'll get to our destinations faster, wherever they may be.
Way, 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 way faster. And the destination in this case is this utopian destination of the entire universe of conversations getting more connected. And one of the most powerful ways of the universe of conversations becoming more connected is that conversational cosmonauts, such as ourselves, can teleport in to new conversations that we're finding out about, and have this Chat GPT powered on-ramp, right?
This is too exciting, man. I'm getting too excited.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps all over my body.
Yeah, I figured that this is like, this is what we do as humans, right? We leverage technology. I mean, Stan was trying to build this in a paper format in the 80s, and now we've got the electronic version, but it's sort of like pedaling on a normal bike. I've got an electric bike here. I'm doing deliveries in downtown Vancouver, and it's sort of like adding electricity to the whole equation. We'll get to where we're going faster, wherever that may be, or hopefully acquire new insights. We're leveraging the power of AI. That's really exciting. We're trying to anticipate where that's going to go or where that's going to lead us is really exciting. I haven't thought about this yet. Anyway, I'll be here participating with you. I've got to get to my next order.
Very good, Christopher. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, bro.
Well, the beauty of it as well is that not only will it get you to where you need to go faster, it will get you to destinations you didn't even know you needed to be.
That's what I wanted to say. That's bang on, James. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because if it knows your likes, if you have your likes and your preferences and your passions put into it, fed into it, like, then it's going to put you in touch with the people you need to be in touch with the conversations that you need to be involved in. That's the beauty of it. And if you can do that, then, and to get you into those conversations, up to speed with those conversations, and into them as quickly as possible, because you might have something that's very valuable to that conversation that the algorithm picks up on because of a conversation you had elsewhere, and it says, oh, hey, well, you need to be in this conversation here. No, they need to hear this. Like, that's what we need to have, like, so that we can at lightning speed help each other globally, internationally, for compassionately and you know, with kindness, and you know, that's how we can use AI to our advantage. And that's, again, by example, we show the way of the benevolent side of AI is more attractive than the negative side of it. You know what I mean? For those who draw into that, there's always will be, but you know, again, the power of good will always outdo, as long as they have an avenue like to work together, passing the feather.
Yeah, it's interesting. Up until this point, we've been using machines to augment our physical efforts to the point now where, you know, most of the work is done by machines. Most of the heavy lifting isn't done by people, and that's a good thing. Now we're moving into this era where thinking is being done by the machines. I hop on my bike here, and Google Maps tells me, you know, what's the quickest route. I might know a good route in my head, but the machine oftentimes knows a better shortcut. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely next level with the Chat GPT. Where is that gonna, how will that allow us to leverage pathways in the city of conversations towards, you know, our destination? That's really interesting.
But just came Star Wars movie. There is a computer, the DTR2, who has this. You know, you can ask him, "Can you please give me the direction where I can find da 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 da?" And then the DTR2 say, "Okay, this direction." Or can you spit out the ideas how to whatever, you know? And then, okay, wait a minute, then you have it. You know, do you know R2D2?
R2D2.
R2D2? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a chat PT and chat GTP, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, or certainly the combination of R2D2 and C3PO, because C3PO is like an interpreter, much more conversational, and he often interprets what R2D2 is saying for other people. But anyway, that's exactly the idea.
I really like it. That's nice. It's cool. Futuristic.
It's kind of nuts, our ability to anticipate what these future devices can do, like exactly what you just said there. That R2D2, C3PO, these are really old ideas, like from the 70s, right, or even earlier, but people were able to foresee that. So I think it's very useful for us to talk about what we're going to be talking about, talk about where technology is going to take us. We can have faith in that ability, because I think it's been really successful. Like, science fiction has been bang on in so many ways. So it's a useful discussion to, it's not just fantasy to say, hey, like, where is this going? It's borne a lot of fruit in the past. I think it'll be more relevant. So that specific conversation inside the conversation, I think, is super useful right now, just because of the success of sci-fi and that part of human thinking.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been dreaming of these scenarios for literally 10 years now, and now finally AI has caught up with my dreams. Or our dreams, our collective.
Jamie, do you have the ammunition? Do we have, I guess we can input all the clips from the previous recordings, is what you were essentially saying?
Yeah. we certainly can. My current focus is kind of much more systemic than that, basically saying, you know, there's millions of conversations out there. How do we, you know, put a big lasso around these millions of conversations and bring them in to be the building blocks of this emergent, hyper-connected universe of conversations, right? And, you know, there's models for that. You know, one of the simplest and cleanest is Google, right? In the late 90s, here was this vast internet that people were barely able to, you know, navigate. How were they able to navigate the internet pre-Google? Thanks to crawlers. These spiders that would crawl around the internet while you slept. And then you go to places like Alta Vista and Yahoo and say, hey, I'm looking for this. And the crawlers would just give a dump of whatever they had found. Well, Google perfected that process, right? And so by analogy, here we are a quarter century later, which is freaking geologic time, you know, in terms of high tech. And yet here we are a quarter century later with vastly more capable tools like ChatGPT, soon to be artificial general intelligence, right? And so we've basically got a shot, a pretty limited window of time to envision and figure out a way to implement everything that we're talking about here before Goliath does, right? Or before Goliath, you know, kills us off, basically, or marginalizes us, or makes illegal what we're proposing to do, right? Following on the totalitarian trend that we've been observing. Right. So we're basically at the final scene of the very first Star Wars movie, Episode 4, 1977. The Death Star is coming within range, 2 minutes until we can blow up the planet. And, you know, Princess Leia's there with the old dude in their robes, and they're directing, you know, they're coordinating the fighter ships to blow up the Death Star. That's where we're at right now. It's time to blow up Goliath. And we're going to use ChatGPT to do it. Red leader to gold leader, red leader to gold leader. There's this thing called ChatGPT. We can use it to help integrate this emergent universe of conversations, right?
I'd like to openly wonder. I mean, this has just come on the radar, and we weren't really talking so much earlier about how AI could help stuff out, which is a predictor that that's only going to increase. It's exponential. I mean, ChatGPT is like the training wheels version of this. I think we can safely say, like, even in like 6 months to a year, it's not going to be just like version 2. It's going to go, it's exponential of growth. And so it's going to be that our leverage is going to exponentially increase, which is kind of cool. I don't know what the hell that'll mean, but it can't be. It can only be helpful.
Right. And the scary thing is that as helpful as it is to us, it's also helpful to the bad guys, to Goliath. And Brett Weinstein's very thesis during that first panel discussion that I mentioned is that our basically our one shot is to leverage this power as a collective super intelligence of good people, faster and better than the bad guys, than Goliath does.
To me, it becomes like the hammers, though, right? Or knives or whatever, right? Once the hammers are out there, they're out there. We can't really decide how someone chooses to use that hammer.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Claudia. We can't decide how they choose to use it. We can only decide how we choose to use it. And if there are enough of us good folks come together and co-create this super powerful, benevolent network of conversations, then that, or universe of conversations, so what I'm calling the collective super intelligence, the CSI, if we can create a powerful enough CSI fast enough, then we can direct that CSI to neutralize, dare I say, destroy Goliath.
So if I understood you right, Jamin, wouldn't it be necessary to have like a training how to use Chat GTP to find kindred spirit networks, and bring them on board?
Yeah, except rather than ask people to get trained on it, we would simply empower people to talk with it in their own language, right? You see what I'm saying?
You froze there. I didn't get the concept. Can you?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I moved my computer. I think the cable got messed with. So rather than ask people to get trained on how to use it, we would simply create the system, adapt and configure Chat GPT and other elements of the universe of conversations to so that people could simply talk to it and say, hey, I'm looking for conversations about marine cloud brightening because I'm really passionate about it and I'm knowledgeable about certain aspects of it, and I want to get together with other people who are passionate and knowledgeable about marine cloud brightening so that we can make it happen already. Right?
Right. Sounds nice. How can we do that?
Right. So, well, Chat GPT would then say, okay, let me do two. Chat GPT would then do is act as a matchmaker between individuals who might make that request and other groups, other conversations that are where they are.
You're breaking up, Jamin.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry. I'll be right back into better signal in a moment.
Okie doke.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
great.
good now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, okay, thanks. So what I was saying is that Chat GPT can basically be used as a matchmaker between people like myself who want to forward the conversations, the research, the work, the development on marine cloud brightening. It'll connect me to other individuals and whole conversations, whole groups that are in conversation about marine cloud brightening, so that we can talk with each other. And in addition to matching us up, it will also create the on-ramps so that I can get up to speed on their conversations, and those conversations can get up to speed on me, right? So it's kind of like a rich introduction rather than just, oh, you two should talk. Okay, how do we talk with each other? Where are we coming from? That might normally take some uncomfortable back and forth. Skilled communicators and skilled networkers can do that, but what if people aren't skilled networkers or skilled communicators? They might get more frustrated than connected. Well, ChatGPT can help. And to your earlier question, of course, training is definitely relevant, right? But the training can be facilitated by just by ChatGPT itself, right? So it's kind of like a fractal in that sense, right? Just start talking to it, right? Like a good therapist.
Think of it
they'll
like
know what.
Think of it like Alexa, you mean, is it?
Yeah, exactly. You just talk to it. Tell it how you want to help, how you want to contribute, right? And here we have a huge advantage over Goliath, actually, because Goliath is basically interested in just concentrating power and money in the hands of the already super wealthy, concentrating more power and more money in the hands of all of those who already have too much power and money. So it's a very limited application of intelligence. In the case of Goliath, in the case of David, all of us who want a better world and want a world that works and that stops the destruction and forwards the healing, we have, that is so vast and multidimensional that it really becomes a much richer field of application for other forms of AI than anything Goliath could think of.
Can I share something? I seen
Please.
I seen on the TV, Dr. Travis from NASA. He is in the research unit section, and he's working, going through space, with panels, and he's working on IA. And when they reach a certain point, they can duplicate the panel on their own as an intelligent computer or whatever. It was amazing to see. I mean, they are working on it to reach farther into the space. Just want to share that. That's amazing. I never heard that before. a computer who can, or a system, program system can duplicate itself. This is amazing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's machine learning. I mean, it's a machine that's learning from people in this case. Yeah, we are now in the age of AI, and the transition is happening so fast. It's making our heads spin. And that's why I say we have, you know, a limited window of time in which to make our dream happen, where the benevolent David becomes vastly more intelligent, vastly more capable than the evil Goliath.
Can I just ask you, Jamin, I don't need you to recap the whole day so far, but what particular podcast or interview are you talking about with Brett Weinstein? Is that on YouTube?
No, it's not on YouTube. We played a 20-minute speech that he gave at the conference that Chief Phil and I and Melissa and Kate were at last week in Texas, called INC'23, the Independent National Convention, where for 3 days we had basically this really interesting David versus Goliath conversation.
And Goliath
Right.
is who or what?
Goliath is represented by, at its core, the for lack of better words, the rent-seeking elites of the world who have way too much power and way too much money,
Okay.
and the systems that support them, including the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, big media, big banks, big tech, etc.
Okay.
That support Goliath basically, you know, eating more and more of us little people and animals and getting bigger and bigger itself. Right.
Okay.
Now,
I get it.
and David is the rest of us who basically say, enough. Now, how do we become way more capable? How do we outsmart Goliath? How do we take down Goliath and replace his tyranny, his omnicidal tyranny, with benevolent stewardship of humanity and the planet?
Okay. Thank you. I drove back
Yes.
from Oak Harbor at 7:15 this morning.
Oh my goodness. Aren't you glad you're here, Gabrielle?
Well, I actually came in by accident, but yeah, I'm just listening. I thought this was the Convergence Zoom link, but I'm listening.
Well, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, your countryman Christopher has his hand up. What you got, Christopher?
Just gonna say, observe here. I don't know if you guys can see. There's like a lot of yachts out in the harbor, and there's definitely in this city in Vancouver, British Columbia, there's this hyper disparity, you know, with the wealth, and then you know just around the corner there's Hastings with everybody who's homeless. Probably maybe the worst crisis in North America for that, or at least one of them. And they just elected somebody who's into sort of cracking down on that and getting the encampments taken down, sort of a more conservative approach. And yeah, the Goliath, I was just thinking about that, you know, like this is, people want to chase this dream, but there's, you know, I'm on a bridge. Is there a bridge for the people who are on Hastings Street, the people that don't have their, stuck in a different pattern. I'm delivering like $1.7 million checks to lawyers' offices, and I see people who can't afford to eat. It's a little bit in your face here compared to maybe other places that I've lived. But Marco and I were talking about this, like, you need capital, at least in this current system, in order to do the work that we want to do. So, yeah, I guess it's an ongoing discussion. Like, this is obviously beautiful. And the people that live in those condominiums there that pay like $4,000 rent a month or mortgage, their existence, they're empowered to do some of the stuff that we're talking about, far greater than people at the other end of the spectrum. So there's a caution there. We don't want to damn the, I guess, would be a thought of mine, something Marco and I have been discussing while he's been here.
Yeah, you may want to turn off your camera, Christopher, because you're getting a little choppy audio-wise, just so that the bandwidth gets channeled to audio. But we got the gist of what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
And so my answer to that is, here's the thing. Wealthy, powerful people will be able to participate in the universe of conversations just as much as anyone else, right? And ultimately, it's everyone's choice what they do with their time, what they do with their energy, right? And in my own case, I have kind of a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on, where I spend part of my time focusing on, how do I accumulate more money for myself and my family, right? And then on the other hand, on the benevolent side, it's how do I spend my time and money to best help the world, right? And one of the big projects of the collective superintelligence is going to be, how do we inspire humanity, all of humanity, right, to become more benevolent, to spend more of their time helping solve our problems, right? You see, up until now, spending time in a Zoom meeting like this one has involved a really substantial commitment of time, because you basically have to hang out here for a while to really kind of get up to speed, right? And but now with this whole on-ramping thing with ChatGPT, it's gonna be a lot less costly, right, to get up to speed. Costly in terms of time, right? And imagine ChatGPT were in the room and somebody asked a question that everybody else in the room knew the answer to, and for that person to ask that question and get it answered, it would mean slowing down everybody else. Well, ChatGPT could basically invite that person to a breakout room, give them a 2-minute summary that not only answers their question, but goes beyond that and gets them all the way up to speed as to where everyone else is, right? Imagine how powerful that would be. So we're talking about something even more powerful than ChatGPT, and that's an AI that has all the features of ChatGPT, all the features and capabilities of ChatGPT, and it keeps a very accurate, up-to-date model of what each person in this room knows and what we don't know, right? And then let's say we're at a high level conversation about the application of AI to the connecting of the network and some high level features and capabilities, but there's a couple of us in the room who are kind of lost and don't really know what we're talking about. Well, the ChatGPT could invite those two people into a breakout room, get them up to speed, and then send them back to the main room. Right? You see what I'm saying?
I think it sounds great, but I mean, in my mind, again, I see a couple of glitches. I mean, what are we working towards and for? Efficiency, or again, like spending community time together, right? Because if it's efficiency, then yes, we could have a machine, take someone off to a breakout room and put them up to speed. Or are we building community where we're inviting them to be part of and just have everyday natural conversations? Because to me, putting everybody up to speed and having the information at the fingertips is no different than, say, a family sitting around a dinner table, all being on separate cell phones or devices, getting different and listening to different information. I want to be able to gather at a table where it doesn't matter if someone new comes into the home. We can invite them to the table and not sit there and say, you know what? Well, step off into the lobby, while we put you up to date. So again, to me, there's that fine line, right? Of, are we becoming more human, or are we becoming more machine, automated, efficient, quick, and that sort of stuff. So again, just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Wow, really good, Claudia. Well, you asked that question at 2:22 in the afternoon, which is a powerful time. And of course, what are we doing here? We're spending time together. We're working it out together, right? And this is working great for us. But also consider that there's a tremendous amount of relatedness here, right? Most of us have spent a lot of time together over the last 2 or 3 years. Some of the people are new, but the people who are relatively new have also filtered themselves in and said, hey, I really like swimming with this school of fish. I'm compatible. There's shared understanding. Game on, right? Here, I'm just gonna do a quick thing with the recording. We're continuing